Hi, I'm Rob Vanstone, and welcome to the 71st edition of the Rider Rumblings video podcast. Each week we pick some numbers of past or present Rider players that correspond with the number of the podcast. So number 71, of course, Bobby Jurison.
Absolutely.
Plaza of Honor member, Gord Barwell, Leif Pedersen, some couple of tremendous guys and a couple of tremendous receivers who left us all too soon. So there's our number 71s for the week. A select list.
I'm quickly trying to find one for this year. I don't know if there is one. Sorry, I should have looked it up earlier.
That's okay. You're absolved.
Keep talking.
Murray McCormick is here with me, sort of.
Sort of, yeah.
And not a real challenge as far as picking out the obvious storyline for this week, and one that I frankly did not think we would be digesting in October.
None I can see.
Rough Riders in first place at 10-4, with Calgary looking up at them, going to Calgary on a Friday night. Easy fare for us to dine on today. How is this possible? I still can't fathom what this team has done. It's just amazing.
Do we give Chris Jones credit for this? Because some of these guys are his players still,
and that's his coaching staff by and large.
It's his coaching staff by large, and maybe in a weird sort of way, by leaving, gets the opportunity for Jeremy O'Day to step in there and get signed, have the foresight to sign Cody Fajardo, Corey Watson, Solomon Aluminium.
Aluminium.
Okay.
Aluminium.
And William Powell and all these guys.
Powell. Sorry, bad joke.
And is able to get these guys on the roster. LJ McCray, who's had a big game. And so with Chris Jones out of the way, creates an opportunity for Jeremy O'Day, for Craig Dixon to be a head coach. Gets to change the whole picture, the whole atmosphere, the whole tone to this team is absolutely 160 degrees changed.
160?
160. Sorry. It's early in 180. We can't start this over again, can we, Mark? No.
Be able to go right to number 72, Jim Warden.
Thank you very much. It was a great podcast.
Cleveland Van.
Sorry. It's an incredible turnaround from when we think about where we were this time last year. And the Riders were on a roll last year about this time too, but they weren't as strong as they are now. And I think, as I said at the beginning of this, somewhere in some meanderings, Chris Jones deserves some credit.
John Murphy deserves some credit too.
Yeah, John Murphy.
In a lot of those guys.
John Murphy just I think he was with Toronto all along, but he got hired as Toronto's director of personnel, which is something we can all talk about. So looking back to when things were in January and February and also unsettled, you wouldn't have picked this time. I know we kind of thought how long Craig Dickinson lasts, but that's how he protects him. But yeah, they're a totally different team and totally unexpected. Yeah, I would say totally.
I thought this was going to be a team that at least this year might be caught between two cultures. Chris Jones is left, but his people are still here. Is there time for Jeremy O'Day, Craig Dickinson, and friends to apply their stamp on this team, one that in many ways they inherited? Mm-hmm. And I thought this might just be a transitional year, trying to gear up for 2020, especially with the Grey Cup coming here, with so many one-year contracts. I just wondered if this just wasn't destined to be their year. And I certainly wondered that 3 plays into the game against Hamilton when Zach Collaros went down. So you look at all the things that have been thrown in front of this team that may be perceived or were perceived as obstacles, and it turns out they were opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
And then the glass was half full.
Yeah, full. And you look at the offensive line with all the injuries and changes, and we're wondering, what are they doing? Why are they sitting Thaddeus Coleman? Why is, these guys sitting in all the injuries? Brendan Labatt's gone for the whole, comes back. It was going to be gone for the whole season. And Darius Bladick and Dakota Shepley and Dan Clark. The uncertainty with Dan Clark. So the offseason.
Jacoby Caulfield got hurt.
Yeah. So the
Dan Clark was in a car accident.
So the offseason was filled with so many reasons for them not to be here.
Yeah.
And they've still managed to somehow overcome them and be in first. Now, are they going to be at first place come November 3rd? That they've got to beat Calgary. I think beating Calgary by 28 is pretty big. Is a big ask, and I think that's the way. But it doesn't wipe out their chances by any stretch. But I still think.
But if they just beat Calgary, they're in excellent shape.
Yeah,
especially when you consider BC, Edmonton to finish off.
Yeah,
whereas Calgary's got Winnipeg twice.
Because just a win is a win is a win, and a win with points is even better. I can't see them getting 28 points on Calgary. You never know.
Hey, 1963, little miracle at Taylor Field. Riders need to win by 27.
And they won. Okay, well, that was...
but that was a long time ago. But it
6 years
they
old
would
then.
need a little miracle,
A little sprinkle
circa
of
2019, and
a big wallop of Jesus on this one to
yes.
get over past this one. And
but just winning that game would be massive in terms of Calgary would really have to do something to catch them.
But even after we saw what happened in the Banjo Bowl, would you have said the Riders would go out there and stomp the Blue Bombers in Game 3? Like, we expected a much tighter game, and it was.
Well, they didn't really stomp. It was close into the fourth quarter.
Yeah, but maybe beat them. You kind of thought the Blue Bombers without Matt Nichols are a whole different team. This was a Blue Bombers team with Andrew Harris, who they pretty well shut down, with Willie Jefferson, who was
totally invisible. Where'd he go?
Yeah, so there's and Cody Fajardo was good. He wasn't great, but he was good enough. Shaq Evans
didn't get himself into trouble,
No.
whereas the Bombers kept turning over the ball inside the red zone or inside the Saskatchewan territory.
And Shaq Evans had been kind of quiet a little bit, and then he explodes. And that 61-yard touchdown, or 64, the touchdown catch, 7 yards, little dump pass, and then turns on the speed. I realized he was fast. I didn't realize he was that fast. Remember, we thought Cody Cannon was going to be the speed guy back when you wrote about him.
Yeah, I was thinking, okay, Shaq Evans is coming off a decent year, but no touchdowns, lots of drop passes, and I thought Cody Cannon would come in and he might be the guy that Shaq Evans really wasn't last year. And in today's best-selling edition of the Leader Post, I pretty much ate that one and drank it. And just totally emulsified it in as many ways as possible. Because was I wrong there?
And
Shaq Evans has been absolutely amazing,
and he had half the yardage from that game. And that was that
more than that,
and that
193 of 299.
And he turned Winston Rose and
that's a good DB.
That's a good DB, isn't he? Have 3 or 5 picks, I think.
He's more. I think he's been great.
Yeah, and he just turned him inside out. And that catch he made, that bobbling one where Winston Rose made a great play to get his hands on it, and then he bobbles it, and then made the great catch. It was on our front page with a picture of his eyes wide open and everything. That was pretty cool. But defensively, you got to talk about them a little bit. Like they're doing, they kind of, how many sacks? I think 4. I should know that off the top of my head against Winnipeg.
They what they did most effectively was Winnipeg moved the ball or got field position that was so advantageous. And they're inside Rider territory when they're picked off twice. A.C. Leonard with the strip sack and the fumble recovery. And not only that, after I think the Bombers began a possession on Saskatchewan's 32 in the second half, and the defense stopped them, they settled for a field goal.
Yeah.
So the field had been tilted in the second half in the Bombers' favor, and they had 3 points to show for 4 possessions inside Saskatchewan territory.
And Chris Streveler, they tackled him better. They were a much better tackling team. And I remember in the Banjo Bowl, it was kind of like watching a high school team. That was that long run where we put 2 or 3 different spins on guys and just made them look silly.
Yeah.
And I'm at practice. I don't know how and the CFL rules, it's pretty hard to practice tackling. There's no pads. There's just drills and stuff. But maybe it's just a want to. And that they had the want to tackle Chris Streveler and make him stop. And they did a great job of that. And relatively on Andrew Harris, who I think hurt his shoulder quite early.
He went out right before the halftime, but was back.
But he wasn't very effective after that.
He hasn't been that effective since he came back from the suspension.
So maybe that's
the Bombers haven't been very effective since he came back from the suspension.
You and I have been around a long time. I always find it interesting. Everyone talks about how good you got to be in the summer and before Labor Day and stuff, but how many of those teams carry that on? Be so dominating in the first half of the season, and then Calgary does it regularly. Sorry,
Winnipeg's been notorious for that. Yeah, they're the boys of summer. But they're not Mr. October.
No, they're
enough baseball analogies for the day.
No, like they're going on the road for the playoffs. Do you think that kind of locked them up? They're going to be out.
You would think so.
They got to play Calgary twice, and I think the third team's BC.
But I don't know. I don't know how much hope you can hold out for the Bombers, but there's still more than a month before playoffs, and all it takes is one injury to change everything. And the way marquee players have been falling this season, can you bet against?
Well, how about
something can you be sure that the status quo and the rosters are as they're constituted today are still, and the depth charts are still in effect come playoff time?
Do you cross your fingers when Cody takes off with the ball? Or do you say, let's just enjoy this guy who knows how to run the ball, knows how to protect himself? Because he took a pretty good wallop on one run where he spin, the guy hit him, and then he took another hit right off of it.
And he, of course, there was the the hurdle into the bench and into the Gatorade.
Yes, yeah.
There was one play where he got flattened. I think he was just releasing the ball on a screen pass near the goal line.
Yes,
and someone pancaked him, and I thought, uh-oh.
Yeah.
And he kind of got up a little slowly, but then it was, okay, he's fine.
Yeah.
And the way he plays, he's got to run the ball for that offense to be as effective as it has been, because he's a weapon there. But is that also exposing him to injury in a year when quarterbacks are falling left and right as the Riders began that trend on June 13th? Can you be certain that some kind of misfortune is not going to befall Cody Fajardo before then? Because it takes one hit to change everything, and that's been so true this entire year.
But I guess, and it's a whole other different level, and I'm not comparing, it's just different as men against boys, but I don't think he got hurt in high school. He played all through college, playing that style of game, and didn't get hurt. And he's just doing also maybe he just knows how to look after himself.
Damon Allen played into his 40s and was able to withstand, as a mobile quarterback. Kerry Joseph, I guess that's the best example from Rider history in terms of a running quarterback. Yep. Kerry Joseph was also effective through the air, but he was such a weapon along the ground in 2007, and he didn't miss a start in terms of, at least as far as injuries were concerned. In 2007, for the Riders' final game in Edmonton, Marcus Crandall started, but they were just resting Kerry Joseph. So, and he took some hits, and he took on tacklers, and he fought for extra yardage, and he made it through that season unscathed, and was ultimately a champion. So it can happen. Tracy Ham was able to run his way into the Hall of Fame. He was more judicious later in his career. So running quarterbacks can last into their 30s, and Cody Fajardo is only 27. But this year, I think, given everything that's happened, and I may be belaboring it, but you have a reason to be wary or a little concerned, because it's just one of those years where things can change in a heartbeat.
Yeah, can be. Did you get enough pictures of Laurie Fajardo and watching the broadcast?
So I was actually
fast forward. I bet.
No, I watched the video 3 times, and I thought, should I watch it the 4th time just to see how many times she was on there and chart it? Because last year when TSN did when the Riders were in Montreal, and it was the love-in with Johnny Manziel, I went back and counted how many times they mentioned Johnny Manziel during the telecast compared to Zach Collaros. Mm-hmm. And so I did a running tally I did the Manzelometer. And so I thought, should I go back a 4th time and see how many times, what percentage of the broadcast in terms of time and how many times she was on there? And I thought, no, I think I've watched this game 3 times. I watched it once, and then I realized, where was Willie Jefferson? Did he get hurt? So I watched it again to see, okay, Willie Jefferson did play in that game. And then I thought, okay, what percentage of the plays was he in there? And it occurred to me that the Riders were getting rid of the ball so quickly that it was tough for Willie Jefferson or anybody to really get in. The Bombers had a number of sacks, but as far as Willie Jefferson, he was neutralized. So I watched it a 3rd time and timed the amount of the release time of each pass to see if they even had a chance if Willie Jefferson even had a chance. And 60% of the Riders' passes were released under 2 seconds. There just wasn't time to get to Cody Fajardo, and that's a testament to Stephen McAdoo, another holdover from the Chris Jones regime. Schematically, the Riders were much better in this game. Offensively, they just got rid of the ball so quickly that Willie Jefferson couldn't get there. And if you look at defensively, and you mentioned it earlier, they did a much better job against Chris Streveler. Yeah. We go back to that quarterback draw, the second play of the Banjo Bowl, where Chris Streveler ran for 17 yards and a first down. And the Riders had vacated the middle of the field. Their linebackers were somewhere near Dauphin. Mm-hmm. But look at right before halftime, it's 2nd and 12. They try the quarterback run. And once Chris Streveler gets past the line of scrimmage, there's a committee of people waiting for him.
That's what I wrote.
Solomon Elamimian, most notably.
I wrote down gang tackling a lot in my notes for the game, and I noticed that. And that's what Craig Dickinson mentioned, that getting a lot of guys to the ball. We want 12 people in the frame is what he mentioned on Friday. And I noticed that a lot, and that's a big part of the way their defense played. I just want to mention Laura Fajardo she was animated, she was fun. They didn't mention that John Ryan's wife was sitting beside her.
Right beside her, Sarah Colonna.
And she was, I kept looking at her because she plays an actress on this, probably one of my favorite series, Shameless. And she doesn't look like the same actress. You probably never, but she got in the elevator. My brush with fame is she happened to get in the elevator when standing right beside me, and I, being an unabashed fan, it says, "You're amazing" on Shameless, and she looks at me and smiles. And I said, "Oh, hi, I'm Murray."
And her books are hilarious.
And I haven't read her books.
They're great.
So I said, "But I'm Murray McCoy." "Oh, I follow you on Twitter." And then we chatted a little bit. Now doesn't have it, but I said, "Must be a big change from watching American football all your life to now you're coming up here." She goes, "Yeah, the 3 downs and the timing and everything." And I said, "You got to see John Punt a lot." She goes, "Yeah, that was kind of nice, but it's still been a bit of an adjustment." And then the crowds full in and our conversation ended. But it was pretty cool to see that. And I also think, and I'm going to mention Cody, he lifted her out of the stands at the end of the game. And she doesn't look like a very huge, big girl, but still, it's a little bit of muscle there, a little bit of stuff. And, the big kiss. And it would just, Cody's so real and makes covering the game so much fun that his scrum, and he's just, after his post-game scrums and pre-game moments are just so different than anything I've been used to. And I don't think we've seen a quarterback. You may talk about Ken Austin and Darian Durant, but not like way Cody does. Cody, like, my wife's in town and throws a story in our laps.
He'll peel back so many layers.
Yeah,
and even if you're looking at the opposing defense, for example, he will tell you what type of style and volunteer the information, what type of defense they usually employ. Calgary plays a zone. Montreal doesn't rush the passer. They don't blitz as much, et cetera, et cetera. And he'll open some windows as far as strategy and just about his life. He's as open a book as someone in a position of such prominence can be or has been, and it's an amazing. And there's nothing contrived, there's nothing manufactured. You've dug into his past and talked to people who coached him in high school and in college, and everything that people are seeing now is what he has been when the spotlight wasn't as bright, when there weren't 10 reporters around him everywhere he showed up every time he played. Yeah. He's a genuine. On his bye week, he shows up at Mosaic Stadium to work with inner city kids in a football camp. He didn't have to do that. He was on his own time, and that time is precious.
And some of these quarters are intensely private. Yeah. Darian Durant, we knew about him as a football player. You didn't know what he did away from the field very often. You didn't hear about him doing kind of things. Zach Collaros, you didn't really know what he did away, but Cody throws it all out there.
Yeah.
And let us know how he is. A guy mentioned, I was having lunch with you yesterday, and he said, it must be fun covering a guy like that, because he mentioned Chris Jones, and Chris Jones made you guys really work, and there wasn't really this conduit between the fans as much because Chris Jones wasn't willing to share information. And he says it's just you can notice the difference with Craig Dickinson and Cody. And always they're winning too. Like if they're 4 and whatever. Maybe this isn't quite the open.
When the Riders won 3 games in 1999, Steve Sarkisian was a tremendous guy to talk to, but nobody really cared at that point that Steve Sarkisian was pretty much an open book too, because the Riders were a bad team.
Yeah.
So that changes a lot of things. 4 years ago, 2015, Brett Smith was a tremendously nice person. Yeah. And in fact, he reminded me, as I look back now, there's a lot of parallels between talking to Brett Smith and talking to Cody Fajardo, just 2 tremendously nice people. But the Riders kept losing. We're in the midst of a losing season with Brett Smith, quarterback, so nobody really cared that much about the personality, and he exuded personality.
Yeah.
But like you said, the team wins, and that changes everything.
And it does change. You can feel the whole difference in the all around now. People are on Twitter and stuff. There's more. Rider fans are getting to be their regular selves, a little bit arrogant, a little bit obnoxious, which is fine. And
that's our job.
Having fun with it. And I think this is a team that they can really start having fun with. And the Grey Cup's coming here in 2020. I think it's going to be all this is going to build towards that sort of because they announced the tickets last week for sale. And if I can, I don't have to pay for them, so I want maybe not. I think their tickets are reasonable considering you got a 35,000 seat stadium.
Still, when you're pushing $500, but what do you in this league where they always pride themselves on being affordable? But isn't that really pushing it?
I know, but doesn't that what it costs to put on the game too? Isn't there some sort of cost to the game?
Oh, sure, but when you're pushing $500,
so what do you think is a reasonable amount? I
would cut $100 off that top price.
Would you? Yeah.
Especially if you look at
they're giving you $25 off that top price.
Look at this game against Winnipeg, a virtual playoff game, and they don't get 31,000 people in a stadium with 33,350 seats. So if you look at the magnitude of that game and the fact that there was a 4-digit total of empty seats. And you start thinking, okay, now you're talking Grey Cup a year from now, and there's no guarantee the Riders are going to be in it, and that ticket price is pushing $500.
Yeah.
I
But
just wonder
that's
if
for
that's
the premium seat, though.
Oh, sure, but they got to sell them. If they don't sell all 35,000 seats, it's kind of embarrassing when you got such a small capacity.
I like this idea of the more standing room, and I think I know we can differ on this, but I like how they recognize it's a different. People watch football differently now. They don't sit in their seats. They wander around. They want to talk. They want to meet at the concession stand. They want to watch the game on TV, and then in the fourth quarter, they're going to retreat to their seats and watch the games. I think they've done a great job of recognizing that. Another thing, and I know it surprised me when they didn't announce 45,000 seats or 40 to 40, because that's, you and I thought that was going to be the seating for the Grey Cup.
Yeah.
And then they said,
they'd always said expandable to 40,000, sort of like my belt size.
But they mentioned that, the wouldn't be as good of a fan experience. The concessions would be more cramped, the concourse would be more cramped, be more lineups for bathrooms and all of these things. And I like that thinking, that just because you can put them in there, just don't put them in there. Like I can't remember 95 what 55,000 were like at Mosaic Stadium. I can't imagine how they... I
remember that. My assignment was to be in the stands that day.
So how did they deal with... I know they had a whole bunch of bathrooms out there and portables.
The south end zone was absolute... It was absolute bedlam. So nobody could move.
Yeah, so and then you have
halftime was horror.
So that's what kind of experience did those people have, other than they were at a Grey Cup between two teams that were... the Riders weren't in it. Fast forward to 2013, another jam-packed place. I think because the Riders were in there, it might have been Lily. So,
but that was only 44,000 compared to 51,000.
What a great! I know. I still have that. I have an office at home, but I still have a picture of the 4 tickets of girls. I was on the Rider beat for some reason back then, and we went to that game, and we have an aerial photo of that stadium. Not from the game, from when they played Calgary.
55,438 people
on that beautiful fall afternoon. It was an absolute gorgeous day. And I still have that picture, and I look back, and I remember being warm and everyone having fun, and that many people all in love with the CFL and the Riders, and it was
a bad Rider team. They still won 25-20 that day over.
But you remember that day? That was.
Oh yeah. In fact, there's a chapter on that game in my book that's coming out in November.
Oh, good. Well, that's a nice one to see.
So
do we want to throw out how the Riders are going to do today on Friday? Sorry, I'm trying to.
This may cause some people to click off. Goodbye, if you were so inclined. I picked Calgary to win until Calgary shows that they're down on the canvas and the 8 count is taking place. I'm still picking Calgary to win that game. They're at home. That's their turf. They beat the Riders. It seems like eons ago by 27 points. So I picked Calgary to win. You go in there in the playoffs, it's a different story. Yeah. I will throw in a caveat. Riders went into Calgary in October of 2017 and won, and they won there last year. Zach Collaros with his best game as a Rider. Exactly. The year before, it was a Duron Carter interception return against Bo Levi's. So going into Calgary and winning this time of year is not foreign to the Rough Riders. I'm not sure it's a bad thing even necessarily not to finish first. Go into Calgary as the second place team. Riders have done that and successfully in the past. So Calgary can be had in the playoffs. I think Calgary's going to win this game. I don't think that necessarily portends a disastrous finish of the season for the Riders, but I got Calgary winning by a point, 2 points.
I think the Riders are going to win, but I don't think they're going to cover. I think getting 28 points is asking a lot.
That's ridiculous.
And that would mean a perfect defensive effort, pretty well. And Bo Levi, slammed. I think he played pretty well against Montreal. I don't think
it was over 450 yards.
Yeah, and he would look like Bo Levi, and Bo Levi can do that. And I think if the Riders are close, win in a close one, it still accomplishes something. It gets them to win, and then they start looking at winning out more than.
You don't even look at the 28 points.
No,
you don't go into that unless it's a total points thing like it was in 1963.
Yeah.
You just go in. You want to win the game, and then you don't win the season series.
Yeah,
but you've got the upper hand on Calgary, and you've got a schedule that, despite the fact there's 3 road games in succession, it's still a favorable schedule when you look at the caliber of opposition you're facing.
And you look at the timing of it, like there's no short weeks. There's a Friday game, and then Edmonton's on a Saturday because of the Heritage Classic.
Yeah, so and they charter. So
and they're going to leave early. They're going to get out of town for the Heritage Classic early because I think when Mosaic Stadium's going to shut down, they're going to have to practice at U of R or Leibel Field. So they're going to get out and try to get things more organized. and then they close against Edmonton, and by then, who knows what Edmonton's going to be like by then? They're just sort of floundering and plummeting, but
they're still going to get in the playoffs. So one would think. We got some questions, by the way.
Holy
I'd like
smokes.
to address them really quickly before we sign off today. From Nathan Frank, do you think the Riders will pick up a proven backup, maybe James Franklin or McLeod Bethel Thompson?
When, tomorrow?
By the trade deadline.
No,
I don't.
Absolutely not.
I don't think that they're going to go there, especially James Franklin. McLeod Bethel Thompson is leading the league in touchdown passes, but there's got to be a reason the Argos aren't inclined to play him.
I don't see any big. I don't know what they're going to trade for right now with the trade deadline tomorrow.
There's really no. That's a testament to Jeremy O'Day and to Paul Jones as well. That they're pretty deep.
They could have used a younger international receiver just for Manny Arsenal, and they signed JWL. So maybe that is their trade. Jordan Williams-Lambert. Maybe that's their.
We had more questions, and I'm just flipping through my timeline. Do you want to sing or something, Murray, while I just find the other question?
Want to talk about Grey Cup fit up? No.
What day are you on
this
now?
This is day 54. And if you don't know what Grey Cup fit up is, I'm going to brag a little bit of myself. Back in August, somewhere the 16th, Brody Lawson of the CFL posted a thing that said because she wanted to be active for 100 consecutive days because the Grey Cup was 100 days away. So I've been working out, and I thought, well, I'll throw my name in there. And today was day 54 in the basement of the McCormick Mansion, and it's working. It's been a lot of fun. It's a great community. It's kind of neat to be welcomed into their world. And
you've done amazing with that. I'm hoping to extend my streak to 2 later on today. Jordan Klamosko had a few questions. Does William Powell usage also remind you of Wes Cates? I think they can use William Powell a little more, and maybe they will. You got to remember, this is a 31-year-old back, and the weather's getting colder, so maybe they're easing up on the throttle a bit, thinking they're going to really need to pound the ball with William Powell down the stretch, and maybe save some wear and tear on Cody Fajardo in the process.
Yeah, I think that, but I think they can get. I still think they can give him the ball a little bit more.
A little bit more,
but sometimes the game dictates that too.
Yeah,
like still remember, folks. I know we all talk. I got to run. It's a passing league.
Yeah.
The bottom line is the CFL is a passing league, and a great running back's wonderful to have, and he sets up the pass, but you're still throwing the ball.
And Cody Fajardo was part of the running attack too.
We forget that too.
That's taking some carries.
They both
away.
would have 10, 11 rushing touchdowns, 11 and
They
10?
both have 10.
Both have 10. Yeah.
The Bombers try to keep Matt Nichols or Chris Strevler. I don't think Rider fans really realize what Darian Durant meant to the team and people like to pick on Darian Durant despite all he accomplished. But then when he got hurt in 2014, people realized how important he was. And I think Bombers fans and the Bombers, as much as Matt Nichols was picked apart and maligned and categorized as a game manager, when that isn't really necessarily a bad thing, I think there's a lot of people who are clamoring for Chris Strevler who would love to see Matt Nichols behind center again. This is probably helping Matt Nichols' cause because you don't know what you got till it's gone sometimes. Am I reading that correctly?
Yes, I have a friend of mine who despised Darian Durant. I'd see him every now and again. I kept saying, how can you despise Darian Durant? I just didn't like him. And I was going, well, now he's gone.
Did you like the West semifinal in 2013?
Yes. Do you love it? What do you think now that he's gone? And then we went, yeah, but he still doesn't like Durant. I don't understand why. Some people.
You never know. Some people are just that way.
That way, yes, exactly.
And that about wraps it up, unless there's anything you'd like to add.
Nope. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Yes. Be kind of nice. We'll go back to him. I was initially against the Saturday games because I think the CFL should own its market. But boy, have I come on board now with these Friday and Saturday games. I'm leaving Sunday free.
Leave Sunday for the NFL. It's wonderful.
But play on Sundays in the summer. Players keep your Sunday games, pick the ones. But once the NFL kicks in and once this stuff, I think the CFL, and I think the games are better. The guys get more rest. There's none of these short weeks in the last part of the season. That I don't know if they happen as much as before they tried to vote. But I think Saturday games, yes, Randy Ambrosi, way to go. On the heavy slate of Saturday games. Triple header. Fortunately, I get to go to one of those games. I don't know. I was home when we had the bye week and I watched 3 games in a row. That's work.
There was one Saturday when they had 3 games in a row and all of them were dogs.
Yeah. So
and I think it was the day the Riders played Toronto. And I was like, this is so awful.
Yeah.
So,
but then there was the Broncos won, so I guess you're
the Broncos beat San Diego. Why do I I'll always say San Diego? They beat the Los Angeles Chargers, so that's a wonderful thing.
The Steelers lost to the stinking Ravens, and Mike Tomlin kicked off to start the
What was
overtime.
that?
It actually didn't hurt them. Kind of.
Still.
You take the ball. Take the damn ball. There's a lot of yelling going on my TV when that moment was going on. And that didn't end up beating him. The fumble by Juju Smith-Schuster was the
Smith-Schuster.
Smith-Schuster.
Aluminium.
Dyslexics untie. That's what I say. Alrighty.
We are done.
Sorry.
Please read our big sign off, and then we will depart.
And we'll mention that Rob and I had attempted. We were going to keep this short and sweet and tight, and we're long and winded and.
Yeah, but at least we got Juju Smith-Schuster in the Rider podcast.
That's right. We haven't mentioned Duran Carter for a long, long time.
No, we did get him in though.
Okay.
I didn't. So yeah, we broke that slump.
Yep. If you enjoy the podcast, please leave a review and a 5-star rating. It helps us grow the podcast. You can subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you'd like to send us a question, you can email Rob at rvanstone@postmedia.com and we'll read it on the show. You can follow Rob on Twitter at Rob Vanstone or Murray at MurrayLP. Or if you want to follow me on Instagram, Murdog36. What's your Instagram?
Don't follow me on Instagram.
Okay. Are you on Instagram?
Just friends for Instagram. So,
okay.
Yep.
All right. Sorry. Anyway.
But anyway, for Murray McCormick and his amazing training regimen, I'm Rob, looking for a buffet. We'll do this again next week with number 72. Thanks for joining us today, and have a good one.